Did everybody hear that? Oh, we're on now. Mr. Breeding, would you please repeat that, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion we come out of closed session.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to return to open session.
Certification of closed session pursuant to subsection 2.2, 3712D of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended. Each member of the Board of Supervisors upon roll call certifies that to the best of their knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters that were identified in the motions by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the Board of Supervisors. Any member of the Board of Supervisors who believes that there was a departure from the requirements shall state so prior to the vote, indicating substance of that departure in his or her judgment has taken place. Are there any supervisors who believe a departure has taken place? Being none, if you agree that the matters heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting were pursuant only to the motions by which the closed meeting was convened, please signify by saying yea or yes. Tim Lovelace.
Yes.
Carl Ray.
Yes.
David Eaton.
Yes.
Steve Brady.
Yes.
Rebecca Dye.
Yes.
Forrest Christian.
Yes.
Luann Wallace.
Yes.
Ma'am, you have approval to return to regular session.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. At this time, we will have an invocation, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you tonight thanking you so much for all that you do for each of us, asking that you'll forgive us of the places that we go astray, Lord. And we thank you so much for your Son, Jesus. And Lord, tonight as we go about business, may everything that we do, our attitudes and hearts, be acceptable in your sight, and guide us and give us wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to need approval of the agenda, but I think we have something we need to change.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion that we move under acknowledgement Officer Noel Ball, American Red Cross. We need to move him to a location between the Constitutional Officers Report and the County Attorney's Report.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the agenda and amend it as you've heard. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussions for changing that? All right, I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brady. So at this time, our presentations will go to the number 2 place on our agenda, which is the Older Americans Month, which is May 2023 proclamation. Mr. Lester, do we have someone that's going to read that, or you?
You, Madam Chair.
Oh, you got me down to read that? Okay. Whereas Russell County includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their time and wisdom and experience to our communities, and whereas Russell County benefits from people of all ages and abilities and backgrounds and have the opportunity to participate and live independently, and whereas Russell County recognizes the need to create a community that offers the services and supports older adults may need to make choices about how they age, and whereas Russell County can work to build an even better community for our older residents by not limiting our thinking about aging, exploring and combating stereotypes, emphasizing the many positive aspects of aging, inspiring older adults to push past traditional boundaries, and embracing our community's diversity. Now therefore, we, the Russell County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim May 2023 to be Older Americans Month. We urge every resident to celebrate our older citizens and help to create an inclusive society and accept the challenge of flexible thinking around aging, dated this day, May 1 of 2023.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this ordinance, considering that I am one of those older Americans.
The proclamation. I have
Proclamation, sorry. I've got ordinance on the brain.
I have a motion and a second to accept the proclamation as read. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Breeden and Mr. Christian. Now we're moving on to our public hearing, which is the Virginia Department of Transportation, the secondary 6-year plan for fiscal year 2023 and 24 through 28 and 29. Anybody that needs to speak to that, we're open to the public to speak to this particular secondary 6-year plan.
John, if you want to come in and say some closing comments on the 6-year plan?
I don't have anything to
How's that?
add.
He doesn't have
Thank you.
Good enough. Stands as is.
I'll do a second call for this before we close the public hearing. Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for the VDOT 6-year plan. Thank you very much. Next, we're having a public hearing on the VDOT resolutions, which is abandonment of Route 871 and Route 1211 and Route 19/58. So we're open for public comment on those. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the board, my name is Shirley Brown, and I own property and a home which borders State Route 871 in the Sourwood Mountain section, District 3 of Russell County. This road is the only access road to 2 cemeteries, the Fielding Music Cemetery and the Gilbert Cemetery. I came before the board in November of 2022 to voice my objection to the proposal by VDOT to discontinue maintenance of this road. This road was rerouted by VDOT in 1993 as an offshoot of Route 722, and that was over the objections of the residents of that area. Assurances were made to the residents at that time that state maintenance would continue. I realize that the decision to discontinue maintenance has already been made over our objections. I am here today to speak for those who have passed away and no longer have a voice, to remind VDOT of that promise that was made 30 years ago. I respectfully request that the board support my efforts to keep this road in the VDOT system. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to this?
Good evening to the ladies and men of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Irene Sprouse, and I live in Castlewood and everything. And this road, closing of this road would make a very bad hardship for the people to access the family cemeteries, the 2 family cemeteries, Gilbert's and Field and Music Cemetery, which we both, well, even Field and Music Cemetery have over 25 people buried in it, and also the Gilbert Cemetery have that many, and no pallbearer could carry a casket a half a mile to the cemetery, so it would make it very hard to access. And my ancestors is buried there, and I believe in honoring, like the Bible says, you're supposed to honor your father and your mother, you know. So I just feel like keeping that tradition, And also my grandparents have settled Russell County, and they have fought in other wars since the colonial days, back to the 13 colonies. In fact, my ancestors have built the courthouses in Lebanon and down on top of the bridge. So I have several people that have signed documents I'd like for y'all to look at here, and funeral home people have signed and wrote letters that has dealt with it. So, yes, and too. So I appreciate it if y'all would take in consideration that our family fathers, our ancestors that need to have a road, and there has been several people that's been heading the cemetery in the last several years, the last 10 years back, and gave business. So, like you said, like Ms. Brown said, that has been a promise that they would keep the road up. The Central Coal Company had the state to take it and reroute that road, so. And to discontinue it, it would make a very bad hardship on the people that want to go to the cemetery and all, and even funerals and all. As you can well see, some of the ones that remaining is on walkers, and they couldn't walk that far, you know, so. Thank you, and
We appreciate you coming, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Darrell Hubbard. I was born and raised on that road. And last time we went up there, it's a gas well staked off on it. Is gas company pushing the state to turn it over, or is they getting any pressure from the coal company or the gas company to, turn the road back over or what?
Mr. Hubbard, we really don't have conversations, but this request is from Virginia Department of Transportation.
Is he here? Can he reply on that today?
Yes, I will
Okay.
ask John Bowling with Virginia Department of Transportation if he would address some of these things.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Bowling, I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Thank
You're welcome.
VDOT's original intention here was to discontinue it from state maintenance, okay? Not to abandon it as a public road, so as to not make it available for public use. VDOT's original intention was to stop maintenance on the road because there was no occupied homes or businesses along the road, okay? It fell below the standards to qualify for continued state maintenance and public expenditure. We did not, our original intention was not to abandon the road so that a public road would not be available there, okay? But we did intend to discontinue maintaining the road, but not to abandon. It was subsequent to that in our discussions with the county, Mr. Lester here, and my supervisors at work, that abandonment was maybe the better option, and we went from, at that point, it became abandonment instead of discontinuance. And that's led us to the public hearing.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your explanation.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say?
if it, they,
Ms. Rose, you'll have to come to the podium. I hate to ask you to do that. I know you're...
if they don't want to abandon it, they don't want to work it, I mean, they don't work it that much anyway. I mean, how can we have funerals and and give our business to even these local funeral homes, and we pay our taxes too. All of these generations, all the way down through history. And county taxes, state taxes, federal taxes, gasoline taxes. And as you will see, a lot of people go to those cemeteries and keep them up. So I think it's discrimination all the way around for the state of Virginia to try to do our families that way.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
That's John's question.
I'll second that.
I know my mom, Edith Law, had been here in 1993 when the same incident was happening. And I do believe that the road was saved then. I don't see why now the road is being taken away. And my name is Peggy McLaughlin. And I know if I had to go to the cemetery or up on the property and it's not maintained, I would not be able to go. I would not be able to be buried there. Or my generation won't be able to be buried there. I feel it needs to be remained open. Please, by God, let it remain open. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Anybody else?
Hey, my name is Christian Menzer. I'm probably one of the youngest people from them that's related to some of these older people. From what my grandmother just said, Peggy McLaughlin, it kind of breaks my heart to see this road get closed, where I have to maintain that graveyard for them. In the past couple of months, I haven't been able to because of some personal matters, but I plan on going back up there and maintaining this graveyard, and if the road's not open, I'm not gonna get up there. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Breeding?
Close the public hearing. Yes, John.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing without anybody else needs to say anything. All right, thank you all. I appreciate it. Hearing is closed. We're going to ask Mr. Bowling if he'll come back up. Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's my fault, John.
Okay.
What happens under discontinuance? We've talked about that before, I think, but I just need to confirm it.
Difference between discontinuance and abandonment.
In the man.
When a road is discontinued, that's an act by the Commonwealth Transportation Board that relieves VDOT of the maintenance responsibility for a road, okay?
But the road still
The
remains.
right-of-way still remains open to public use under the authority and jurisdiction of this board, okay? If this board abandonment is an action by this board that eliminates it as a public road altogether, and it is no longer open to public use and there's no public access.
I don't see how you can do that if that's their only access into the cemetery. I mean, will they have access into the cemetery off of another road? I know there's two roads on either end.
Not if it's abandoned, no, they won't.
But isn't John there an exemption?
And that was the reason we chose to discontinue to begin with.
And under, so either way, and of course, you know, the county has no county roads. So if VDOT discontinues it, it will fall under the purview of the Board of Supervisors, and we don't maintain county roads. Now, as far as easement getting into them, they could use that as a discontinuous, but if abandonment, it goes back to the property owners. But there's also an exemption in the code to where if there's a cemetery there, they have access to that cemetery.
I do believe there is a
Yes,
section
there
of
is.
code where private property owners have a legal duty to allow
Yes.
people access to cemeteries.
But either way, if you do a discontinuance, Steve, or abandonment, VDOT, either way, will no longer maintain this road. Whichever you go, whichever.
I understand that, but
But I'm with him, what was it, but?
But, if you discontinue the road, the right-of-ways go back to the original. I mean, if you abandon the road, the right-of-ways go back to the to the people that gave the right-of-ways, right?
On a prescriptive right-of-way, yes. The road easements automatically extinguish and it goes back to the
These are
underlying.
prescriptive right-of-ways.
To my knowledge, yes, the underlying one is
Okay.
prescriptive.
So that would go back to the property owners, and they could pretty much will do whatever they wanted to. Those over and kill the road.
I personally think that it's been thrown on the board to make this decision, and I will not vote in favor of abandoning the road myself. To me, it looks bad on the board in behalf of VDOT or whoever gives y'all rules and regulations, to take that step. And I don't want to look bad on me, especially the rest board members can speak for themselves.
Well, abandonment is the board's choice, not
Yeah.
VDOT's.
Yeah, we could either abandon it or discontinue it, one or the other.
It's at the discretion
No.
of the
If we abandon, they lose access to the cemetery. If we discontinue, looks like we're in the road business.
And
Is it required that the county would maintain those?
No,
It's not required.
So we're,
So if they maintain themselves, then
Either way,
that's,
they'll maintain.
be just like
Doesn't
any
our
other.
tax dollars count for anything?
We
Our
just-
gasoline tax, we pay taxes all
Ms.
the
Sprouls,
time.
Ms. Sprouls, thank you.
If we discontinued, it would be just like all the other roads that we don't maintain, that
That
no
we don't
one maintains.
maintain, yeah.
I mean, the people that use them
Yeah.
maintain,
people have to maintain themselves.
Yeah,
which is, what-
property owners have to maintain.
which is, I think, all they're asking.
but even if VDOT did choose to discontinue the road, which was our original intention, we still look for the board's support in such an action. If the board does not support that action, then VDOT will drop the petition to discontinue the road.
But will you continue to maintain it?
We will continue to maintain it to the degree we have maintained it for years.
Very good, thank you for that
Thank you,
information.
John.
You're welcome, John.
Does the board wish to take any action at this time? Or we're gonna wait on that?
First of all, ma'am, we need to back up on the 6-year plan and approve
Yes.
the motion on it. And if, on the Route 81, the 1211 and the 1958, those need to be taken singularly as a vote and a motion, to abandon. Now, 1958 is up for abandonment, and so is 1211, which needs to be done because that's the town of Cleveland. They want that abandoned. And the 1958, which is at the corridor in Hansonville, that's asked for abandonment too on it, John, right? So, but y'all's
That's
discretion
a
on
resolution of
871.
support.
Yes.
So we need to take care of the 6-year.
Yeah, I'd like to
First
make a
6-year
motion
plan first.
to approve the VDOT secondary 6-year plan.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll take up the resolution of abandonment of 871, 1211, and 19/58. We have to do that separately. So let's do that in reverse order. 1958, what's the board's pleasure?
That's for abandonment. At the
That's
request
for
of VDOT.
abandonment of 19 and 58. That's at the Hansonville intersection.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second Tim's motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for abandonment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, 1211. I'll entertain a motion for abandonment of 1211.
That is the town of Cleveland.
We have a
I'll second-
motion
I'll second Carl's
and a
motion.
second for the abandonment of 1211. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, I'm moving on to the abandonment of Route 871. Do I hear a motion of abandonment? Or a separate motion?
It's Carl's.
Oh, it's Carl's.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, we do not abandon that.
I have a motion not to abandon
I'll second.
871 and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we're moving on to presentations. This is Mr. Dan Glass and Mr. Passmore.
So,
Mr. Glass?
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, just to clarify for the audience, what that motion means is that VDOT will now maintain.
To the extent that they have.
Because I didn't see nobody move in the audience, and I said, okay, let me explain what this means. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Glass.
Thank you. We are not to again ask for your support. In the resolution, our squad to lower the age of junior squad so that they can participate in ambulance transports. It's something that you originally approved in October. And I would like for you to consider that again. Just to give you an idea of what's going on in the state. Got this today. It's a quarterly magazine from the Virginia Association. At the Rescue College, they're having a camp for kids. In that, it's for ages 8 through 16. The tag they're using is kids of the future of the EMS, fire, police, in our community. Get them interested while they're young. That's what we're trying to do. But if you would, we would greatly appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Mr. Passmore, would you like to say something, please?
I'm primarily here in case you have questions for this.
Okay.
I don't advocate for or against. Certainly, regulations currently allow for the junior members to be a part of the squad. What regulation doesn't allow is for anyone under the age of 16 to be exposed to body fluids, hazmat, the patient care that can't go on calls. They can be So Rescue College has programs for youth. In Stadium, that's about the symposium. We also do education programs for youth, but it's not, we don't, the state law is very clear.
There's no reason that they couldn't, the 13-year-olds couldn't have training and
Absolutely.
Classes and whatever inside the rescue squad building, under the rescue squad's jurisdiction.
Exactly.
But I do certainly have issues with them going on calls, after reading the regulations that we hadn't seen before. And I've got two 13-year-old grandchildren, and I don't think, I just see a lot of potential problems. Not that, if they were out and something happened to the members, one of the members or both, maybe they had a wreck and the child was there and they could be the only person that could do it. It's just too much potential to cause a lot of trauma in a child that's not fully developed yet.
Both mentally and physically. So to be clear, what Mr. Glass is asking for is an exemption to state regulation. Before the state can begin to entertain that, you have to be supportive of that. Because I can't grant anything you're not willing to support.
But he doesn't need the exemption to train the children that are 13 and under.
He needs the exemption for someone under 16
to go on calls.
Respond on calls. Yeah. Everything else they're welcome to do within regulation.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. Any further questions from this board? Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Moving along to new business. I need an approval of the minutes, which is the unapproved minutes of April 3rd and the unapproved minutes of April 11th. I will consider those both at the same time unless we need to do them separately because of attendance. Everybody? Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve both.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Also, moving on to approval of expenditures, to consider the approval of the expenditures presented. That is in your packet. You should have already looked at that. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the expenditures.
I have a motion.
Second.
Thank you, David. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Looking for committee appointments for board consideration. And that's, we have a Yvonne Dye for the library board is coming up on June 30th. You want to let that sit there, or do we have someone that's in our packet?
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Yvonne Dow. She doesn't want to serve. She don't? No.
I
Ms.
think we
Yvonne Dye
need to pass
has
it
just
on.
declined.
Can we wait till next?
Oh, yes, we don't have an issue with quorums at this time, so if board members can continue to serve or whatever at their pleasure. Thank you, we'll move along. Now I'm coming to citizens' comment period. You have 3 minutes. If you didn't sign up, I'll give you an opportunity later on, but I'm going first. Mr. Hubbard, Darrell Hubbard. I think he's
already spoke.
Yes, ma'am. Irene Sproles. You've already spoke. I'll give you another chance. Kelly McBride. Dale.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I am here on behalf of the library board to ask you to, as I know you're still finagling a little bit, I assume, on the budget, and as you act as the budget committee as a whole, if you would honor our request. The staff is totally excited about the possibility of a raise, but we did ask for additional money to cover the raises and the discrepancies that, or adjustments that result from the minimum wage increase, which was 9%. You know, that was just a dollar jump, but it was 9%. And that leaves the supervisors in the same position of supervising people who are making the same thing they are. We also asked for some additional funds for building and so forth when the county rolled into having us purchase and reflect in our budget I think of it as the supplies that aren't office supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning materials. You know, that begins to add up, and I don't want to be in the position of having to cut hours because we need to buy toilet paper. It's not a good look. So just reflecting a small additional into there's a second supply line that is for supplies other than office supplies. Our library state aid will pay for any sort of office supplies that we need, but they're very clear that, you know, they won't pay for phone service, they won't pay for toilet paper and those kinds of things. And I have an updated sort of budget draft request if you would like to have a copy of what my math says, but his math is what counts. So.
We'll take yours.
All right. And I think I appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next on the public comment list is Shirley Brown. Mr. Brown?
He's already spoke.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? That's the end of my list.
All right.
Mr. Hughes, I'll recognize you.
Thank you.
My name is Larry Hughes, from the Lebanon District here, Steve's district. I'm usually here complaining, asking for something, but I'm not tonight. I want to thank you for this ordinance or this proposal to keep this 871 together. I don't know anything about it. It just sounds like you did the right thing, and I'd like to say thank you for that. I'm usually complaining, but not tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hughes. Okay, I'm going to close the.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
See if Richard Burke is in the audience. He called me this afternoon and wants to speak about his road.
Richard Burke, are you in the audience?
Richard Burke.
There's no Richard Burke here.
He was going to try to make us so everything you get.
He'll be here next month. We'll listen to him. Thank you. I'll close citizen comment period at this time. Next, we have constitutional officers, reports and requests. None, seeing those.
You've got the award, I saw Jess.
Oh, the award, I'm sorry. Thank you. I didn't put that down.
That is next. That is
Officer Noel Ball, the American Red Cross Hero Award. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Sharon Dixon. I'm the Disaster Program Manager for the Southwest Chapter of the American Red Cross. Tonight we're here to recognize Noah Ball for his extreme efforts that took place on February the 8th last year. Normally the Red Cross, we recognize heroes out in our communities once a year, and we had the privilege to do this last month, and Noah could not attend our ceremony that we had up in Roanoke, Virginia. So we are here tonight to present Noah with an award for his life-saving heroics as to saving a resident in Russell County. And I'd just like to read a little bit about the fire report so you get a better understanding as to what took place that morning. One of the residents was preparing breakfast around 6:45 in the morning, and she was cooking bacon. And if y'all know how bacon can really burn and can cause a fire pretty fast if you're not watching it. And so she had this burning bacon, and she took it to the sink and put water on it. And just for y'all to know, please don't ever put water on bacon if it's burning, because that grease does not, it causes like an explosion. And so she tried to extinguish it, and that did not work, and she caught herself on fire. Yes. And so the fire spread, but she's able to call 911 and get to her couch. And Noah here happened to be the first one on scene, and I guess he heard her calling, and so he went in, and he had gotten a fire extinguisher from his trunk of his car, and happened to see her lying in the floor, and so he was able to get her out and save her life by doing so. But Noah has had some burns that he's had to overcome from going in to save Miss Harrison's life, and so we like to commend him for doing that. His hair has grown back. He looks pretty sharp with his haircut and all, and had his ears burned. And we know that's no easy thing. We never know what we're going to face. The Red Cross, we don't know what we're going to face when we go into disasters. And just like Noah never knows when he's going to go on a call what he might face. So we would like to commend him for his heroics, and we'd like to present him with a Celebration of Hero Award for his life-saving bravery and courage and dedication to the residents of Russell County. So.
Y'all want to get in? Yeah.
Yes,
Y'all have a photo op. Squeeze yourself in again.
Me either.
Y'all swing, Jacob.
Hold on, just a second. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, good deal.
Very good.
Congratulations, Jake.
Congratulations. John Weber.
Thank you. Nice presentation, thank you all.
What fire department you with?
He was working for the Honaker Police Department.
Honaker
Police.
Okay, next we're moving on to the county attorney reports and requests. Ms. Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first matter that I have are the IDA polycap revenue bonds and the moral. These bonds require the Board of Supervisors to approve a moral obligation in order to receive that funding. I sent the moral obligation to the board in my report, and I did not have any concerns. However, Lonzo has provided the updated copy with one small addition that he wanted to be made, and I do not have a problem with it, and so that's ready for the board to consider to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from this board? Mr. Lester, do you need to say anything? Are you good?
Madam Chair, I'm good with the terms and conditions.
Very good. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, moving on to Special Counsel, Economic Development Project at Moss 3.
Yes, Madam Chair. The Economic Development Project Moss 3 is an unannounced industry that, if pursued, would require a fairly complicated contract. And so my advice to the board was to work in addition with myself and my law firm, specifically Mr. Campbell, on working on that contract, and I would recommend to the board, I've reached out to Gentry Lock, and I think Lonzo has reached out as well. The board has worked well with them on special projects before, and I do think they have the specific expertise that would be necessary for this project if the board so chooses to go in that direction.
Thank you, Ms. Patton. I'll entertain a motion for Special Counsel.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we allow the county administrator and the county attorney to secure a special counsel in this project, and we proceed as soon as possible on this site.
I have a motion and a second from Mr. Ray. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The last item that I have is a proposal for an off-road recreational vehicles ordinance, or an ATV ordinance. Lonzo had reached out to me about drafting an ordinance for this purpose, and the ordinance that he has provided, I've just briefly had the chance to look at. It's verbatim, other than the language that Russell County, what Wise County has in place for their off-roading vehicles. Buchanan County, I'm aware, has an ordinance as well. And I will say something I want to look at and make sure. I think this is definitely something that we want to, with our surrounding localities, in this, to have as uniform standards as possible. That way there's no confusion for people using that. So I do want to look and make sure that hopefully that we can be, I don't know if Buchanan County copied Wise or if Wise copied Buchanan County. I don't know if you know that answer, Lonzo.
Can you do that by the next meeting?
Sure, and what I was going to recommend, if you want to go ahead and advertise this ordinance in its form to be considered at the June meeting, I'm okay with that. I just want to look at it and make sure and see what Buchanan County's is. And my understanding is they're all, the localities that have adopted this surrounding us are all similar, so.
Madam Chair, if I may intervene.
Thank you.
As well as under my agenda, we are going to go back into, budget meetings, so we're going to have to reconvene here over quite a few times over the next 60 days. So if the permission of the board, I will go ahead and advertise for the ordinance to proceed immediately upon the date y'all choose tonight for the next budget meeting. We'll reconvene with this agenda. That way we can put it and advertise it and take it up for consideration. How's that?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and advertise. I got one question in discussion, if you can allow me to, after we vote.
Certainly. We have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Now we're in discussion. Thank you.
Will the municipalities have to adopt the same ordinance or a similar ordinance to this, or will this cover the whole blanket area of the county?
I mean, it will cover the county, but I would suggest that municipalities go ahead and adopt it. That way, there's no confusion, because, you know, for instance, the towns, they control the highways and enforce those laws, and so I would think you would want that to be in
Because
place.
we're working on a very large project in my district, and I know the town has already made a motion to make the town ATV friendly, but I just want to make sure that we're on the same lines.
I would recommend the towns located in Russell County to adopt it as well.
Thank you.
And just to add on again, on this ordinance that we've got, Buchanan County had a lot of terminis in theirs on trailheads, which made it future-wise, if you added it or took away, you would be in here doing ordinances, modifications to ordinance. This one that we have chose, the model that we've got, gives you the flexibility by permit to do, if the town adopts, to do it through the Board of Supervisors, and change it as needed without having to change the ordinance as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to work on the off-road recreational vehicles ordinance, so we can have this ordinance advertised, like starting tomorrow, and be ready for some of our next meeting. I would ask that of this board. Are you guys okay, and gals okay with that? Are you going to put it in the whistle paper?
Now, that's one of the things that we have. Now, on the public hearing, Katie's going to tell you.
Microphone, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Lester.
Thank you, madam. On a public hearing, we got to have 2 weeks to advertise, so, for a public hearing. So when you set your next budget meeting, set it within that time frame. That way we can have it. But the problem is this: Lebanon News only advertises once a week. So therefore, we're a week behind immediately by that way, unless we go ahead and advertise in another local paper, which we can put in the Bristol Herald immediately and get that date in too. So
That's a little pricey, sorry.
It is a little
I'm sure
pricey.
the Herald is not
So
like
that's
what I'm
the
saying.
choices. I mean, we only have the two.
So, okay, while we're in this discussion, I'm helping you out with that. Not trying to twist or turn it, but as soon as possible without it costing us an arm and a leg.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that good with the board?
So if
You want me to look at what the earliest you could adopt it if we advertise in the Lebanon
Yes,
News?
and
do that while we
if
do
you
the
don't
budget
mind, and
dates.
we'll set our budget hearing to coincide with that.
Okay, I'll be looking at that.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion, a second, and much discussion. All in favor? Any opposed?
I wanted to say something to you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Christian, would you like to say something now?
My question was, I have been confronted with a number of people about this, and I asked them, the people that's got these vehicles, they want to use these trails. I'm for it as long as it don't override the landowner's property rights. And they couldn't answer that question. So I don't know, is that going to be involved that they can override? In other words, just ride where they want to?
No.
Is it
So,
designated route?
pardon me, these ATV trails are under state guidelines. They're not under, if the landowner is not agreeing with the state guidelines through Spearhead Trails, this is the only way that you can ride except on somebody's private property with permission. But you're not going to be under the indemnification of the state. That's the only way, is to be public with a Spearhead Trail permit. That's why we have to adopt these ordinances for them to be able to ride on public roads.
Designated routes.
That's correct. The county and the municipalities are tasked with the expense of putting signage up that says, yes, you can go there, and no, you can't go there. And so it's just not the wild, wild west. It is under strict guidelines. These riders must be 16 years of age. They must have a driver's license. They must buy a permit, and their machine must be in accordance with the state of Virginia's rules and regulations.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're in the middle of a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next we're moving along to the county administrator reports and requests. Mr. Lester.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the county administrator reports and requests, the first one, of course, is the VDOT monthly road system report. Of course, as you have seen in their May 1st report on board action, of course, we just approved the 6-year plan. On Route A71, VDOT will continue to maintain it. We discontinued both 1211 for the town of Cleveland and the 1958 for the economic development. So the rest are just regular maintenance activities of what they have planned throughout the month until the next report. Next on county administrator reports and requests is just to highlight what the Virginia Cooperative Extension Office, a lot of people, you know, they don't understand that is under the county's umbrella. We work in conjunction, we partner with the co-op office, of course, and some of the highlights of what they do and how much they do for the county I wanted to highlight, especially from the agricultural and natural resources component. You know, the co-op, they do educational programs, they help producers meet necessary requirements to meet Virginia quality standards, but they also work with our farm owners on crops and cattle for sale. Working together with the Virginia Co-op Extension and the Board of Supervisors, working together with the VQA program, beef producers in Russell County have been able to market 95,311 animals. That's amazing, 95,311, and increase their gross profit receipts by $9.2 million. So that's a good partnership that we have with them, and they're down at the end of the hallway. They're a silent partner, and they don't get much recognition. Now I wanted to bring them on recognition. That's getting into the spring. The crops are getting ready to roll. Farmers are participating in these programs, and if any farmer out there that is needing any education or looking for a farm program to help with their agriculture education or a grant or proposal or environmental issues, please contact the Virginia Cooperation Extension Program. Next, also let me put in one more plug for them. They have secured over $900,000 in external funding just to help with those sales of $9.2 million. Next on the county administrative reports is the request from the Cumberland Plateau Regional Housing Authority. This is for a funding request concerning regional housing needs assessment. The Cumberland Plateau Regional Housing Authority has reached out to the Board of Supervisors in partnership with the Cumberland Plateau for a commitment for a community impact grant from Virginia Housing to conduct a formal assessment of housing throughout the 4-county region. So that's Cumberland Plateau, Buchanan County, Tazewell County, Russell County, and Dixon. So they're wanting to do a housing assessment to see they're requesting the $10,000 in American Relief Funds from Russell County, which is an in-kind match for the grant, and all other counties are participating. They'll be looking at a shortage of housing, people that are veterans that have no housing, people with no housing, and what we can do with our existing housing assessment. So I have a request for $10,000 in ARPA funds to the Cumberland Plateau Planning District for participation in the Regional Housing Authority study.
They're looking at housing in general throughout the 4 counties.
Yes, sir.
Cumberland Plateau's involved.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, and I'm very concerned about that because right now there's just no inventory in
There's
housing.
no housing.
So I think
Mr. Breeden, you want to offer that
I'm
motion?
gonna make a motion that we contribute that $10,000 for
I'll
ARPA
second.
funds.
Thank you so much, and I have a second. Any further discussion on this? All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Next on the county administrator reports is the EMS resolution that was presented by Mr. Passport from the Emergency Management, VDH, on the Dank Rescue operational exemption. Of course, you have a resolution that's in for support of you, of the 13 years old of age. at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors, just hearing y'all's comment, ask for a modification to the existing resolution for 16 years of age. If Mr. Passmore is all right with the, if we just move it back in on your consideration to move this forward just for the 16-year-olds to be able to participate in squad operations and trainings at that department, but no transports.
That's not what I'm understanding. Help me.
16-year-olds can.
That's why I'm saying he's got it in the current resolution, it states 13.
Right.
So I was asking for a modification of the resolution, just in support of it, of 16.
I don't think we need a resolution.
With
He can do anything as long as they don't go on calls. He can set his program up under the existing. I don't think we need a resolution.
And the 16-year-olds can go on calls.
The 16 can, that's correct. I didn't know if the board wanted to present at that as a resolution. Okay.
I think that would confuse things.
Okay,
That would-
that's fine.
Only if we're going to ask for an exemption on the 13-year-olds, and I'm not hearing anything.
I'm not in favor.
I'm not either.
Okay.
I'll send an email.
I'll send you an email confirming that, so that's why I was
We
trying
have
to give you
consensus.
something.
Do you want to take a vote on that?
I'll make a motion that we reject the proposal to include the 13-year-olds.
I have a motion to reject the proposal and not allow it to go forward.
I'll second it.
I have a second. Further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries.
That concludes the exemption request.
That includes it. See, I was trying to give something to him to close, either move forward or close it out.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Passmore.
Thank you,
Mr. Passmore. Next, on the county administrator reports for the 24-25 Community Service Board Performance Contract. As you've seen through the 300 and some plus pages that dealt with the Community Support Board, the CSBs, operational plans. So this is approval for their performance agreement with their mental health and programs. I need a motion for approval for the Community Service Board Performance Contract.
Well, I'm going to call for a motion. Who wants to give us that? That took up about half or 3/4 of our board book tonight. Hope you read it. Anybody want to offer me a motion for the Community Service Board Performance Contract? It is a normal contract, right?
It is a norm, this is, yes. They'll meet their program requirements, their mental health, the Department of Behavioral Health, and who they partner with.
I'll give you a second.
I'll make that motion.
And I'm going to give him a second to move this forward.
I'll see.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the county administrator request is, now we're at the county budget meeting dates. So if Katie's had time to do the proposal where we can work these in conjunctions, so.
Yes, the earliest date that you could adopt it would be Thursday, May the 18th, and that would be with it being advertised on, May the 17th in the Lebanon News.
Check your calendars for May 18th.
I'll just make it known, I've got some surgery scheduled on the 17th, and I probably won't be back in town until late on the 18th.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also have obligations on that day, on the 18th.
Yeah.
How's the 22nd look?
Good.
Good, 22nd.
Mr. Brady, you think
Yes,
you can
yes,
make it
ma'am, I'm
without-
good. Oh, yeah, no problem.
Without us prying too much, sorry
I just
about
won't be
that.
hobbling. Hopefully.
So May 22nd? That's
May
6 p.m.
22nd,
6 p.m.
6 o'clock here in this room. Budget meeting.
So we want to reconvene.
We're going to adjourn to reconvene if everybody will agree to that. And we will take up the ATV ordinance and anything else that might come up.
We'll go ahead and set that, and at that board meeting, you can set the next budget meeting based on what we go through.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Next on the county administrator reports and requests is, of course, We have a surplus vehicle that was requested by the Cleveland Fire Department. We have a van that we had utilized, and Mr. Carray, he wanted to see when the Cleveland Fire Department asked for it, we contacted the fire department for the type of utilization and what they're going to be using it for, and they're going to be using it for, the fire department will be using it as a backup for their other vehicles that they have, and to do calls like trees down, something that they don't have to bring out their big equipment. And that's also what I think Brett called it, a cooling down area. He's going to retrofit this van, with air conditioning. If they have a search and rescue or a fire, it's a temporary holding vehicle that will help maintain and support the fire during major fires. So Mr. Ray asked me to see if we could go ahead and surplus this vehicle, and we have. And I need a motion to transfer the surplus vehicle van to the Cleveland Fire Department.
I'll make that motion.
Which one was the?
I'll take a motion from Mr. Ray and a second from Mr. Christian. Is that okay? All right. Any further discussion? I would like to say our CPW, Community Work, CWP, sorry, is in need of an extra vehicle if you can ever accommodate. But anyway, we're not on that right now, so let's move along. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Okay.
opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it kind of leads into the next topic.
Thank you.
Community work program, everyone knows how, I don't know if y'all know how many bags of trash or how much they save us on an annual basis, but it's between our projects, and especially one of the projects they did do is picking up community trash. You'll see them along, especially on 19, 58, over and over. I don't know what people's doing with their trash, but they're not throwing it out at the house, but they're throwing it out on the right way. But we continuously pick up trash. And one of the things that has been proposed is we've got communities, almost like VDOT has Adopt a Highway. You see the signs in various counties that you go in and across the state. This is an annual community pickup, and we're already doing it, but we want it recognized that you have the opportunity to do it, because some communities know it. If we drop a 50-yard container down there while the town of Honecker is cleaning up, which we have done. If we drop one in Dayton, that has been done. We have dropped them in Cleveland, that has been done. So my request to the board, we have in the budget built in the disposal, we're purchasing 5 new containers. We would like to be able to utilize the old containers to be able to, at the request of communities that plan to do it, we will set it in that community, and they can have a point to go and dump their trash and clean up their community. So for those three that will be rotating around, if we do not have someone in the community that is utilizing these, we will be leasing them out in the meantime. We will not let them stand idle. We do not let, anybody knows us on trash. We will be maintaining these at either a retail, commercial, or at a donated place on a continuous basis. So if that's okay at the convenience of the board, I would like to put that into the disposal operating plan to start moving these cans in that direction on community cleanups, and permission from that. That way, they're not just calling me, and I want the board aware of each community they will be participating in and what type of community project it is. So I'm asking for a motion to be able to utilize county disposal units for community cleanup.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a
And wait a
motion.
minute, there was one more, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. And the tipping fee. Because once they clean up, I gotta have it, that's the real one that I gotta include too. I gotta waive the tipping fee instead of charging the community. Now, we're not gonna waive the tipping fee on the commercial, but we will waive it on the community cleanups.
I'll still make that motion to accept that.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll do the second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah. Lonzo, what are you gonna do? What if you've got all 3 of them out and somebody comes in and wants to rent one of them?
Well, they just have to wait.
You're gonna hold up somebody who's trying to renovate a home or something like that?
Well, Okay, run through the scenario again, and
Okay, you've got three that you want to use in that capacity.
and currently renting all three out.
Yep.
And the community wants to borrow, get one for a community cleanup.
Yeah, well, it'll be for a specified period of time, not just.
Yes, we're not gonna leave them there
Okay.
forever. Usually what we're doing is a 3 to 5 day turnaround.
Okay.
This is what we've done in the
Well, I was
past.
just gonna make sure there wasn't a shortage for these people who are flipping houses and such.
And see, just to add on some of the models on what we've been doing, and as David would tell you, then Homeacre, they done a major cleanup down there, but what we do is put the container down, or disposal container, but we also send the community worker program in with them. So this is like, it is an assistance to help clean up too. So we hit it not just to help the community as a location to throw their trash, we also are assisting on the right of way and to help clean up that community too.
Okay.
Now, we can't clean up private property, don't take that. We do right of ways.
We have a motion and a second, and I do want to add to the discussion, so this is going to be like a yearly thing. So a community is not going to get this container over and over and over. It'll be set, and they will kind of pre-order these, and you can work that out, right?
The way the communities do in certain areas, they'll call and say, okay, from May the 12th through the 15th, we're doing a cleanup. They go to VDOT, and usually our community workers, I think we give 100 bags to the town of Homeacre. So we kind of work in conjunction. That way we got the community workers scheduled, and we have the cans scheduled along with them in that community. And that community residents that wants to participate know that schedule too. So they all, it's a three-part partnership from the community work program, and Department of Disposal.
Very good. Thank you for the explanation. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and that concludes the county administrator's reports and requests.
Very good. I'm going to move on to board discussion at this time. Mr. Lovelace.
I think I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Ray.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd just like to remind everybody the Homeacre Kids Fishing Day is this Saturday, May 6th at 9 a.m. near the New People's Bank in Homeacre. And also, the 29th annual Russell County Kids Fishing Day is May 20th. Starts at 9 o'clock down at the Pinnacle Park.
Cool. Thank you. Mr. Eaton.
One thing, since we brought up Virginia Cooperative Extension, they do a wonderful job. One of the things that's been on my heart is to have an education training facility for our agriculture students and others at our canneries. I would like to send a letter to the Virginia Cooperative Extension and get them heavily involved in that, to be able to utilize our canneries as educational sites for them to be able to learn more about canning food and how to prepare and that, but if that's okay with the board.
I think that that's a great idea, and I think they were working on that while Mrs. Dawn Sproles was the extension agent, and I'm not real sure where that went, but she was doing a whole lot of canning things, and she goes around to our local farmers markets, and she was doing that also. Katie Knuckles is the
No, you.
is the new one, isn't she?
Yes, ma'am. And I'll talk to the extension office. They do have a nutrition program. They are very involved with it. They do have a new member that took Donna's place. So I'll have her reach out to the canneries to see how we can partnership on that too.
Well, just going through the Virginia Cooperative Extension where they're actually tied with the state too might help us to get a reduction on the price of cans and jars. And I mean, if they've got grant opportunities to go through that route that we don't have, I just think it'd be a good alignment or a good partnership.
I'll give the board a report on that. So how's that?
Thank you, that's great. Mr. Brady.
Just one thing. Town Cleveland's Park. Last time I was down there, I mean, you know, there's a lot of old trees that wash down when the water gets high. And I mean, it's kind of blocked the whole shoreline off there. Is there any chance that Missy could take some of the community workforce people down there? Or you need to work with the town of Cleveland, first of all, to see if you can get that done. But I mean, you know, they've got a nice asset down there, but it's hindered right now.
Well, just get the board an update, and I'm going to, I know want to speak for the town of Cleveland, but the town of Cleveland, yeah, you got me hot, yeah. Okay, the town of Cleveland is actually just ordered playground equipment. They have a grant, they have just got it in, but they have also got a grant from the Nature Conservancy and CPROP right now, which you and Ms. Wallace said on. They are getting, Nature Conservancy is actually in the process. We are working with the Army Corps of Engineers currently to do a study on the river, because they're going to put a boat launch in
They
there.
need a boat.
So they're putting a boat launch in. It's
I
a,
don't think you put one in till you clean it up.
well, that's part of it. And Thompson Litton did the study for it. They've done the drawings, and we've got those. So Nature Conservancy is spearheading that with the town of Cleveland.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes, sir.
I'm good.
Ms. Dye?
No, not tonight, thank you.
Mr. Christian?
I want to bring attention of the Finney trash site. We need to do something now to get the building there, get the fence up, and electricity's on.
Microphone.
That-
Microphone.
Yeah.
Microphone.
Okay, I'd like for us to get moving on the Finney trash site.
Mhm.
Get the fence up, the building up for the ladies to stay in, and also electricity so she can have a portable heater.
Mhm. We actually had that conversation, Brian and I did this morning, and the current contractor that we had already awarded to put up the fence for the place, we actually have got a new quote for a vendor. He's running behind, the first one is running behind on their schedule, so we got a new quote from a vendor contractor today. So we have that scheduled along with the building schedule to be able to get this thing enclosed.
I know by there one day this past week and saw,
Yes,
things that went for
it's causing us to where it's open all the time. We've had to go back in with community workers and clean it up, so we're going to be fencing it in. It's worth every cent to get
Every
that thing
time I've been
enclosed.
by there has been trash. They don't put it in dumpsters.
We have cleaned it up every week. Mr. Ray knows, we send the community workers to clean it up weekly.
Couches and things out on the
Chairs.
side,
Yes.
dumpsters and all.
Where are we on construction of the other sites? I know the one down in
The Sun site is, we're putting the last bit of concrete in, doing the last part of electrical, probably within the next 2 weeks we'll be done with that. Then we're already looking in the town of Honaker. I've been working with the town of Honaker already for their site. So they've got a lot of great ideas, so we're moving forward on that one too. We didn't want to let the surprise out was, a ribbon cutting for a trash site, but we got one.
Okay, that was going to be my question, so you guys, thank you, Mr. Breeding, you have helped me out. So I have nothing else. I will adjourn this meeting to reconvene on May 22nd here at 6 o'clock. Thank you all for coming.